Sorry I didn't get to meet you in person at the expo.
Yeah, were you there at all, or because I think you
No,
had
I was
mentioned,
not. No,
yeah,
David and Nikki, they were there to represent Bellevue. So
yeah, I met David. It was pretty nice, and I had some of the Viogniers. I didn't do a ton of tastings because it's a long, not a longer drive, but I just don't like to, even when you're tasting, you still, you get a little impact, and I try to, when I can, I try to spit. I know it's not the most, elegant thing to do. And I know tastings now, these days, people just really want to drink more. And I don't try to do that tastings. It sort of, muddies the experience, so to say. But maybe
yeah.
I'm in the minority. I don't know.
Well, if you really want to taste wines, that's what you have to do. I tell people one of the hardest things I had to learn when I did this professionally was to learn how to spit wines out. You just
Yeah.
have to. And we always tell people when we're pouring for them, you pour for them, and they think they have to finish it. You don't have to finish it. Here's a spill bucket. Let's go on to the next one, so you get to taste more wines.
Yeah, I love that, and I wish people were more forthcoming with that information because I feel like every single person is obligated to drink every little thing, and after a while, if you're not really calibrating yourself or watching yourself, you'll do maybe 5, 6 wines, and then your palate's gonna get burnt, and you're just
Right.
not gonna do it. You gotta hydrate. I'm preaching to the choir, though I know that. So,
No, but you're
at
absolutely
least a
right.
good
Yeah.
taste. Thank you for doing this. And this really is just an exploration and opportunity to sort of talk to you about what are those things that sort of have driven you in terms of your journey and how that influences the winery. And you had mentioned 25 years. That's amazing. That's awesome. So congratulations on that. So if I were to ask you, what are some of those things that are important to you in your life? I call them core values, but what are those things that were core to you, and how have they influenced your journey?
So, geez, that's like, let me see if I can put it together in my head here. My core
Morning, how's that
values.
for a morning question?
Yeah. So I would say family, quality, um, uh, and that's what our winery is based on. It was started by my wife and I in 2000. Before that, it was a vegetable farm. And actually, the logo on our boxes that we came up with was Quarella Quality. So it's always been very important. It's our product. We produce it. We're an estate winery. Been a grower my whole life. We take it from seed to bottle. Before it was seed to package to consumer. Now it's the vineyard to the bottle. We do it all. And and what is still after 25 years, people are like, New Jersey, well, yeah, let's just stop by a winery and see what's going on. And then when they taste the wines, you can just see their face light up. And that's like the best reward you can get. It's for me, we made the transition to the vineyard more because the vegetable marketing is very sketchy, and the vegetable growers are having a terrible time through the years. Expenses are going up, and price for products not keeping up to it. And you plant a seed, and then you hope you can sell it. There's not much uh, contract work that we did. It was all fresh market.
Yeah.
So the vineyard, I always had a passion for it. I had grape when I was 16 years old. I had a couple acre grape here, and I made wine down the cellar. And what was good about when I grew up was you worked like a man, they treated you like a man,
Mm,
or an adult, I should say. Man, woman, didn't matter. So
yeah.
at 16, I was driving trucks and delivering produce and managing the crew. So yeah, go ahead and make some wine if you want, Jim. And so
Do you remember that moment when you were 16 that said, I want to do wine? Or what do you remember, why wine?
No, I don't, it wasn't like I tasted a bottle of something and it just hit me that I've got to do this. It was, here's something I can grow and turn into a product that we all can enjoy. Um, Back then we made salami and I still do that now. So I always had the interest from taking something and turning it into something else that could be enjoyed.
Mm.
And growing grape was fun. It's a different crop, interesting. I think that's part of. Uh, I get bored after a while, so I don't know if 25 years if I'm going to get bored, but I'm not going to start anything new now. I'm just going to have fun with what I got.
That,
um,
that was 1 acre when you were 16?
I had 2 acres
Oh,
here,
two
right?
acres. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
actually, right here where the winery is now, this property, the whole farm was 150 acres, but it started as 20 acres right here where the winery is now back in 1914.
Oh,
And then
wow.
through the generations, we've all added property to it. Um, so yeah, it just so happens that I had the grape right here where the winery is now.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, so we grow over 20 different varieties of wine grapes, which is kind of crazy, but our industry's so young here, we didn't know what varieties are really going to do it for us that
Mm,
we can make quality wine with. And coming out of the vegetable industry, we're just used to always planting something different, something
yeah.
new, changing up. So that kind of came natural with the grape. And but some varieties didn't make it. We had to take them out, replant with something else. And we've got a pretty good mix now. We grow some natives because there's still that palate here in the area for the native grapes, Niagara, Fredonia. Uh, and then we really focus on the new varieties because they're bred for wine quality and sustainability, disease resistance, and cold hardiness. So, stuff that is going to get us into the future.
Yeah.
Um, and then the older vinifera varieties, they're still mainstay, but they're a lot harder to grow. You got a lot more disease issues, weather issues with them.
Yeah, so I'm doing this wine journey with WSET. I don't know if you're familiar with WSET, Wine Spirit and Education Trust. So I'm not in the wine industry, so I'm not in the trade, but I love sort of all the stuff behind it. So I was just super curious, and I started going down this training. And at the level I'm at now, you actually have to write a research paper based on one of the topics that they choose. And the research paper that I wrote for, I had to write for, was on peewees. I don't know if have you ever heard of peewees? So they're not like very well known at all in the United States, and that's part of the problem. But they're a hybrid grape that is being designed in Germany. It started in Germany. So and to your point, to your exact point, it's done to sort of they're bred to resist sort of fungal disease and things of that nature. And when you talk to some of the folks over there, they'll tell you that, and you could probably relate to this, like they'll have to spray a Cab Franc vineyard 12 times a season, whereas some of these peewees, what they're finding in the research, they may have to spray maybe once, maybe twice. It just depends. So they're trying to sort of build in sustainability from the long term, taking the vinifera spirit and seeing how they can pull it forward, because I think a lot of people will say, or there's a negativity of hybrids, which I don't really, maybe 30 years ago there was that, but I don't see a lot of the hybrids, with this foxy types, taste that they talk about.
Right. No, you're right. And that's why you'll hear me say new varieties, just in case somebody still has that. I don't like any of the hybrids. So they're all hybrids. You can't just say that. So I like the term new varieties, and that's what I
That's
try to
I
use.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool. Like there's Treminets that are great.
Yes.
There's a couple other ones that are really, something else. So I think people, should give them a shot, and
Yeah.
it's about education too, right? So
Yeah. So one of the varieties we grow is out of Germany. It's called Regent or Regent, and it's red, real disease resistant. It has a little bit of Chamberson in it, but most of it's like 80% vinifera, more or less.
Wow.
And it grows really nice here for us. There's also Chamberson. The thing with Chamberson is it'll grow any place. Well, not quite, but you can grow it in regions that you're not going to get the maturity on it that you should, and people don't handle it like they would a vinifera. So the wine quality is not going to be there. But if you handle it, VSP and drop fruit and pull leaves and get the maturity on it, it makes a really nice wine.
Wow, yeah, that's great. So
Mhm.
let me hear a little bit of, you talked about family, and you said you started the farm was started in 19 what 18
14.
1914.
Yeah. Yeah, by my great grandparents. I guess at that time my grandfather was around 16 years old. So it was my great grandparents, my grandfather, and grandmother, and then my dad and mom, continued, and then Nancy and I, my wife and I.
Wow,
So
16 seems to be that age where something happens, some curiosity kicks in.
yeah, yeah. Now, so what happened with the grape was I had the grape making wine. Um, I went to Delaware Valley University, got my bachelor's of science in horticulture, vegetable fruit production. So when I came home, that's when I met Nancy and we got married and started a family and I took over the business. And before you know it, I didn't have time for the grape anymore. So
Mm,
I kind of stopped making wine there for a while. And we went through the whole vegetable. We had choose and cut Christmas trees and pick your own strawberries, plus all the wholesale vegetable market that we did. We grew all kind of stuff, herbs, cilantro, dill, arugula, plus lettuces and tomatoes, and pretty diversified. But in the 90s, I grew pretty much all Asian ethnic vegetables. New York Chinatown was my big market.
oh, right.
And so that was good. Through the 90s, it's a pretty good time for us. We had a good niche market there that was big enough, that we could produce a good bit. That market started getting weak. California and Florida were coming into our spring and fall market, and Canada was
Mm.
coming into our summer market. So it was time to look around again. And I said, "Oh, Nancy, what do you think? Gonna start a winery?" And she looks at me like she normally does and says, "If you want to." So that's what we did. We got our license, planted the first 3 acres, and away we went. That was in
Wow.
2000.
Are you, listen, I'm trying to think because I would say maybe 20 years ago, I remember there was a couple wineries around New Jersey.
Mhm.
So were you guys one of the first wineries or
We
pretty close to
were
it?
we were in 2000 when we were licensed. We were the 18th winery in the state.
Wow.
And then from then, a couple of them went out, and then they started coming in. So I think there's over 60 now wineries.
Wow.
Well, in our area, there was Tomasello's. I think they were one of the first after Prohibition. Gross's winery was here, and Renault.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
since then, Renault's moved more into the hospitality end of it, not the winery end. Tomasello's still going strong, and
Wow.
Valenzano came on Heritage. So yeah, that after there was like a few of us came in right then at that point, and then more after.
Yeah, it seems to pick up and it's funny. I think the perception is different than 20 years ago for sure. And because you can't have 50 or 60 wineries if something isn't happening, something isn't like if there's not something there to support them.
Mhm.
So somebody's doing something right for sure.
Yeah. Well, we really want to focus on wine. Our taglines like we do wine. Because a lot of wineries have got restaurants, and of course we have to do entertainment, and we'd like to serve food, but it's like light fare. We're staying away from the restaurant situation. We really want to focus on the wine.
Mm.
It makes it a little harder, but you get your true followers there and people that really want the story. Like you said, it's It's not just a bottle of wine. You can go in the store and buy a bottle of wine, but when you know the background and you know what the philosophy that goes into making the wine and get to meet the people that do it, I think it means something.
Well, you said the philosophy. What if I asked you to articulate what that philosophy is for you? You know, what would that sound like? 25 years of doing something. There's got to be something that
Yeah.
is ringing true for you.
Yeah. I think family and quality, when I say family, uh, Dave, who has taken over now as general manager, he's been with me 20 years, and so it's like people normally don't move on unless they have to, or,
Yeah.
if not, they really like being here because it's a family atmosphere. When people come in, we're not pretentious, we're like, everybody says, "What's your favorite wine or what's your best wine?" I said, "It really doesn't matter what I like. It matters what you like."
Yeah. Yeah.
And, or they come in and say, "I don't know anything about wine." And that's all you have to know is what you like, what you taste. So let's taste some wines and see where your palate is right now. So,
That's cool because I think a lot of people get stuck in this perception of foo-fooiness. I
yeah.
don't know any other technical way to articulate it, but what's your favorite wine? I would usually say the one that's in the glass right now.
Mhm. Yeah. Or if you're going to buy it for me, I'll tell you what my favorite wine is. If not, it doesn't really matter. Um, so that I think that's been our driving force all along. And for me, it's quality. We do the best we can, grow the best grape we can, dealing with nature. I'm pretty fortunate I grew up dealing with nature because a lot of people get into this industry not having any agricultural background. And, you don't spray on a schedule that you made up in January. You don't, you wake up every morning and see what's going on and go do what you got to do. So it was pretty easy for me because I've been in agriculture. Um,
You've been
what's
on the land, you
Saturday?
know the land, you know what's happening.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and then again, when you can make people happy, um, it just feels good. It feels good. Yeah, we're in a poor area down here. I think Cumberland County is probably the poorest county in the state. We're actually in Atlantic County, which is right next to that. So, we're kind of like in a different, what do you want to say? Like our wines, people always say, "Man, your wines are priced so reasonable," Well, yeah, we want everybody to be able to buy a bottle of wine, so we got them from $13 to $40. So we got the range in there. And I think that's important. Uh, because then our local people can afford to come in and buy wine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's I don't want to say it's an experience because that seems to be the tagline for wine, but it's an opportunity to sort of I think get closer to what's happening in the area. I think now everybody's so, concerned about what's in their food and, where are things coming from. I think the wine is a different way to connect back to people, community, the land, and what's going on. So to me, I find it as there's another layer of complexity to what the wine is. It's not just a beverage.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Uh, wine is the liquid part of the meal. Now, we could say that because, when you have your meal, you're talking about your meal. When you drink your wine, you're talking about your wine. It uh, gives you that feeling of being together. It's
Yeah,
not like you got a can of tonic here and you're just going to be drinking it. You're not going to be telling everybody what it tastes like or whatever. So, and that's part of our challenge now is all the new drinks that are out there, all the tonics, all the canned stuff. Um, the economy now, where like California, it's not shipping wines out, or now they're going to go someplace. They're going to come on our local market. Cannabis is legal in New Jersey. So all those we're going to have to recalibrate, let's say, the whole market. But
yeah,
but wine's like a mainstay. The people that enjoy wine are going to enjoy wine, and they can enjoy all the other things, but I think they're always going to come back to having some wine also.
Yeah, no, I agree because you can get a can of soda that's going to taste the same today, tomorrow, and the next 20 years, where you pop open a bottle of Blancafranc or your Viognier, and it's going to change and it's going to tell a story of that time. So I think that's kind of cool too, because people can come and say, wait a minute, I had this last year and it tasted a little bit different. And you can tell them why. Well, you know what? It was a bit of a drier year, or maybe the yield wasn't good because there was a wet year. But there's a story that connects people to what comes out of that bottle.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's why the vintage date on the bottle is so important, because that's the year the grape grew. Um, it's not when it went in the bottle, it's that season, the climate, everything that went to make that wine that year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So,
think the vintage variation is exciting. Some people
yes.
say, well, it's not consistent. Well, if you want consistency, get Coca-Cola.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's also amazing. A lot of people don't realize this, how wine evolves once you open it. You open a red wine today and taste it, put the cork in it, wait till tomorrow. It tastes different tomorrow. It had a
Yeah,
chance to evolve, and that's also fun, because when we have wines, we'll have several glasses out. We only pour a little bit in the glass, and then you sip that one, and you go sip another one, and you see how it evolves through the evening event, whatever you're doing with it.
yeah, yeah. So over the 25 years, how has your um, understanding of quality of the area sort of changed over time?
Mhm. Well, I think the grape growing practice in the vineyard has evolved, with more focus on vertical shoot positioning, on leaf removal, canopy management, on crop load. You see very little. The all Before, it used to be 4K Niffen system, the older system. Then you'll still see some high cordon on some of the varieties that do better on that, but they're normally big producers, whites. So the growing of the grape has evolved. But once you get some quality producers in the area, wine producers, it's kind of like everybody's got to step up a little bit,
Yeah.
and that's real important. I The biggest thing for making quality wine is you have to be humble. If you say, I made this, taste it, it tastes great, well, maybe not. You need to be able to say, that's good, but it could be a little bit better. Now, what can we do to make this a little bit better?
Mm,
And because I've had some young winemakers come through here, and it's like, yeah, they're proud of what they did, but it's like, not good enough yet. It either has to stay in the barrel longer, or we got to do some blending here, or do something. Because for me, you taste something, and then you swallow it. What's that take? Seconds, right? And then you have it left. Your What's left? The finish is the most important thing, because that's what you're going to remember.
mm,
That's what you're going to remember. And if there's something off on the finish, it's going to throw you off. The people are going to be like, nah, that's not. So everything is important up to there, but don't forget about the finish, because that's what you're left with.
yeah. Speaking of that, when when people visit your winery, what do you hope they they leave with? What do you want them feeling when they leave your winery, other than carrying a bunch of bottles out? What do you hope that they come away with?
A new experience, a new understanding of wine. Um, uh, they just put the radio on in here. Can you hear that?
No,
Yeah.
I'm okay. I don't hear it.
Okay, good, good. Um, yeah, a new experience. Wine's fun. Enjoy it. make it an enjoyable part of your life. Uh, Taste new varieties. That's what I always like doing. I was like, here's a variety that you might never had. Let's try the Viognier or let's try the Regent. Um, and the other thing is, people say, oh, I only like sweet wines. I don't like those dry wines. I like to get them to taste the drier wines because then they're like, well, this is pretty good because they've never had the opportunity to taste something maybe that wasn't a Cabernet or a Merlot, it's something that was a little softer there. So
Yeah,
give them a
yeah.
new experience.
Yeah, and I love always people say whenever you say Riesling, everybody automatically thinks there are sweet Rieslings. I'm like, oh no, 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 no. It's actually they're more dry than they are they are sweet.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's Treminette also, when you grow it right, sometimes you need just a touch of residual sugar in there,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's not sweet, where
yeah.
a lot of times they associate it with a sweet wine.
Oh,
So
the Traminettes, the Gewürztraminers, the Rieslings, the aromatics, those are really something special.
yeah,
And I like them on the drier side, but teach their
yeah.
own, and it also, what are you eating it with?
Hmm.
What's that all about? So yeah,
Hmm.
that adds the understanding of what you're drinking.
So we have a new red and white that we brought in from Italy. Are you familiar with them? The San Marco and the Trentina?
No.
So this has been a project over 10 years now that this has been going on. The Outer Coast of Plain Vineyard Association, one of the co-founders, Larry Coya, who is actually a business partner of us with Belleview. In the last couple of years, he's come in. He went over in Italy. He was actually learning Italian over there, and he met Marco Stefanini at it's Foundation Edmund Mock. It's a breeding facility, research center in northern Italy, like our Cornell or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, so we picked three varieties that they were the new crosses. The cross of the red is Giraldago and Lagrein. That's their two best reds in northern Italy. So we brought in two reds and the white. The Trentina has some muscat in it, and it's really nice. But the San Marco, so that's over 10 years because we had to send it through quarantine in
Yeah.
California. That took a few years, get it in production to get enough budwood to propagate. So I think we're on our third commercial vintage with that now, and it's really being well received.
Wow.
Yeah, it's got the disease resistance, the wine quality production, and it's 100% vinifera if anybody's concerned about that. But it's pretty neat what they're doing over there with like you talked about the varieties that they're breeding for disease resistance. So
That's
now we have it here.
amazing.
We have it here in the States. We have the Trentina Autumn Lake has been producing a little bit. They're just up the road from us. And we'll have some possibly next year. I think that vineyard's coming into their third leaf. So, we'll have some grape next year and it'll be another year out before we have it.
Yeah,
But they're really interesting new varieties, the San Marco and Trentina.
that's cool. The
They-
San Marco, you said that's northern Italy?
yes. Yeah. North of Trent. In the Trentino Adige region is where the university is up there.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's it's the Sangiovese and the Barolas and the Nobbiolos, all that those stuff, that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are good things. Yeah, those are great wines, but they're getting too pricey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's the demand, I guess it's the demand. Something drove the price up on these wines.
Yeah,
Um, so that's going to balance out some. I think you're going to see a little bouncing there.
yeah. Um, what I'm curious about, Jim, is if I was to ask you to give me three words and three words only to describe the wine area or culture in New Jersey right now where you're at, what would those three words, what would come to mind for you?
Say progress, camaraderie. Is that the right word? We we
Yep.
we we work together very well, help each other out, and sustainability.
Ah, that's cool. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's interesting to think about that, and I appreciate you putting the thought into that because I can see the wheels turning when, which is pretty cool. 25 years in the wine business is no easy feat, and plus the heritage that your family has going back to the 1900s. If I were to ask you, who are some of your heroes that, whether it was when you were 16 and you had your 2 acres of grapes, or even now, who would be some of those heroes that you would have had in your life, or people that inspired you?
Well, the Tomasellos are very influential. I mean, they're a big winery, and they've been in the industry for a long time. There'd be Jack and Charlie Tomasello. Frank Salick, who has passed on since, had Sylvan Winery in Egg Harbor Township, Egg Harbor. He was one of the first gentlemen to plant a good bit of vinifers in this area.
Mm.
Um, I would say Frank was very influential. Yeah. Other than that, my family supported me, so I can't list all of them. Uh,
Very cool.
I would say in the wine industry, they were probably Frank Salick and the Tomasellos.
Wow. Very nice.
Mhm.
If there was one or two key takeaways you wanted somebody to have if they were listening to this conversation, what would you want them to walk away with from listening to the two of us talk?
Well, spend more time sitting down, enjoying a glass of wine or whatever with your friends and family. You know, you go to the wineries to, try to meet the people, get a feel for the wines, bring some of that home, share it. Yeah.
That that's what it's all about. What would
Yeah.
be the best way for people to find out more about your vineyard and your products and some of the things that you're doing?
The best is our website. It's Bellevue. That's Bellview, BellevueWinery.com. Then you can get all the information. Come and visit us. If you want a tour, it's best to schedule it. Make sure, somebody's here to give you a good tour. You can come in and do flights anytime. You can schedule a more personal tasting. And we have vineyards right here around the winery that you can take a little walk out there and see. But, I would say the website's the best way to get through to us.
Very good. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. It means a lot to me that you would do this, and it just speaks to what's happening in the New Jersey wine scene. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate
Thank you for including me in this. This was great. I enjoyed the conversation.
it.
And I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely will. Thanks.
Okay. Take care.